Before we begin, a quick and important disclaimer. The content of this video is provided strictly for educational and entertainment purposes and does not constitute legal, financial, or real estate advice. Real estate transactions involving divorce are complex legal matters that vary significantly by state jurisdiction and individual circumstances. You should not act upon this information without seeking professional counsel from a licensed attorney, a certified financial planner, or a qualified real estate professional in your specific area. Any mentions of market performance or success rates refer to historical trends and case studies rather than future certainties. Please conduct your own due diligence before making any major life or financial decisions. The American dream has a hidden trapdoor that nobody likes to talk about until they are already falling through it. Every 36 seconds, a divorce is filed in the United States. That is roughly 2,400 divorces a day, or nearly 876,000 every year. But here is the statistic that keeps real estate moguls and high-net-worth individuals awake at night. According to historical trends, the family home is the largest single asset in over 70% of these cases. When a marriage dissolves in the U.S., the house is not just a building. It becomes a battlefield, a liability, and a complex puzzle of equity and emotion that most standard real estate agents are completely unqualified to handle. We are entering an era where the generalist real estate agent is becoming a relic. In the high-stakes world of American matrimonial dissolution, a new specialist has emerged, the divorce real estate agent. Today we are pulling back the curtain on why this niche is exploding, the cultural norms that make American divorces uniquely expensive, and why the way you sell your home during a split will either preserve your generational wealth or evaporate it in a cloud of legal fees and spite-driven decisions. This masterclass is designed to solve one of the most stressful financial dilemmas in modern American life. For most viewers, the home represents decades of mortgage payments, weekend renovations, and the bulk of their net worth. When a divorce occurs, the traditional path involves hiring a friend or a cousin who happens to have a real estate license. This is often a catastrophic mistake. Today, we are going to explore the systemic shift in how property is divided in the U.S., the psychological triggers that stall million-dollar sales, and the specific strategies used by elite specialists to navigate the intersection of family law and property law. Whether you are navigating this yourself, looking to specialize in this field, or simply want to understand the massive economic engine behind the American divorce industry, this deep dive will provide the blueprint for protecting equity when the foundation of a family shifts. To understand the rise of the divorce real estate specialist, we must first look at the unique cultural landscape of the United States. In many cultures, the home is an ancestral anchor, often held by extended families for generations. In the U.S., however, the home is a commodity. It is a vehicle for credit, a tax hedge, and a status symbol. Our cultural norm of the nuclear family means that when the two central pillars of that home split, the entire structure, both literal and financial, often has to be liquidated. This creates an immediate, high-pressure environment that the American legal system is designed to process, but not necessarily to optimize for the parties involved. Consider the concept of equitable distribution versus community property. This is the first major hurdle in any U.S. divorce involving real estate. In states like California or Texas, the law generally views all assets acquired during the marriage as 50-50 property. In equitable distribution states, the court looks at what is fair, which is not always an equal split. A specialist agent understands that they aren't just selling a house. They are operating within a legal framework where every dollar of the sale price might be scrutinized by two different law firms and a judge. The standard real estate agent focuses on curb appeal and open houses. The divorce real estate specialist focuses on neutrality and liability mitigation. When a couple is in the middle of a high-conflict split, the simple act of signing a listing agreement can take months. Why? Because in American culture, the home is often used as a proxy for emotional hurt. One spouse may want to sell quickly to move on, while the other may want to delay the sale to maintain a sense of stability or to punish the other party financially. A case study from a high-end market in Florida recently showed that homes listed by standard agents during a divorce stayed on the market 40% longer than those handled by specialists. The reason was not the house itself, but the inability of the agent to manage the communication breakdown between the sellers. In this deep dive, we are going to examine the three pillars of the divorce sale. The first pillar is the legal interface. A specialist agent must be able to read a court order. They need to understand what a Rule 11 agreement is or how a receiver is appointed by a court to force a sale when the parties cannot agree. If an agent does not know how to communicate with a guardian ad litem or a divorce attorney, they are a liability to the transaction. The second pillar is the financial valuation. In a standard sale, you want the highest price possible. In a divorce sale, you still want the highest price, but you also need a clean sale. This means navigating the complex world of ALT liens, where one spouse buys out the other's interest. Historical trends show that many American homeowners lose thousands in equity because they don't understand how to properly structure a buyout versus a market sale. We will break down the math of how these liens work and how they allow a spouse to stay in the home while the other receives their share of the equity without triggering a massive tax event. The third pillar is the psychological buffer. In the US, the real estate agent often becomes a de facto therapist. However, a professional divorce specialist maintains a strict neutrality protocol. This involves setting up dual communication channels where every email sent to the husband is simultaneously sent to the wife and both of their attorneys. This prevents the he said, she said dynamic that leads to litigation. In many case studies, the simple act of the agent remaining a neutral, third-party professional has saved couples upwards of $20,000 in unnecessary legal fees that would have been spent on attorneys arguing over which color to paint the kitchen for the staging process. We must also address the hidden debt culture in American real estate. Many couples utilize home equity lines of credit, HELOCs, to fund their lifestyles. During a divorce, these revolving lines of credit become ticking time bombs. A specialized agent knows how to freeze these accounts early in the process to ensure that one spouse doesn't drain the equity before the house is even listed. This is a level of detail that goes far beyond choosing the right filter for a bedroom photograph. As we move through this 10-part masterclass, we will look at the specific certifications that have emerged, such as the Certified Divorce Real Estate Expert, CDRE. These professionals are trained to act as expert witnesses in court. Imagine a real estate agent being cross-examined by a high-powered attorney about the fair market value of a property. This is the reality of the modern American divorce landscape. We are moving away from the neighborly agent toward a consultative expert who understands the intersection of the civil code and the residential market. By the end of this series, you will understand exactly how to navigate this process, the questions you must ask before hiring anyone, and the systemic ways the American real estate market is adapting to the reality of the modern family unit. To understand why a specialized real estate approach is necessary, we have to look at the specific American cultural obsession with the home as a moral and social anchor. In the United States, your zip code and the square footage of your residence often serve as a public-facing resume. When a divorce occurs, the disposal of that asset is not just a financial liquidation. It is a public admission of a private failure. This creates a psychological resistance that is unique to the American market. For a standard agent, a listing is a cooperative effort between a motivated seller and a willing buyer. In a divorce scenario, you often have two sellers who are diametrically opposed to one another's success. One might be motivated to sell for the highest price to fund a new life, while the other might be motivated to stall the sale to remain in a school district or simply to exert control. Imagine a couple in 2026, let us call them Mark and Sarah, living in a suburban high-growth area like Austin, Texas, or Charlotte, North Carolina. They purchased their home in 2019 for $450,000. By 2026, the market value has climbed to $750,000. On paper, they have $300,000 in equity minus their remaining mortgage. In a standard American real estate transaction, this is a celebratory moment. But in a divorce, this equity is a weapon. If Mark wants to keep the house, he has to find a way to buy out Sarah's interest. If Sarah wants the liquidity, she needs a fast sale. A generalist agent walks into this kitchen and starts talking about granite countertops and stainless steel appliances. A divorce specialist walks into this kitchen and looks for signs of deferred maintenance that one spouse might be using to drive down the value before a buyout appraisal. This is the level of tactical awareness required in the modern U.S. landscape. Historical trends indicate that the biggest drain on marital equity is not the real estate commission, but the friction cost of delays. In the U.S. legal system, every time an attorney has to file a motion because one spouse refused to sign a listing agreement or refused to allow a lockbox on the door, it costs the marital estate between $500 and $1,500 in legal fees. If this happens 5 times over the course of a listing, that is $7,500 of equity evaporated before a single offer is even received. The divorce real estate agent operates as a specialized project manager to prevent these friction costs. They utilize what is known as a listing protocol. This is a step-by-step document that both spouses sign at the beginning of the relationship, outlining exactly how the house will be shown, who will pay for which repairs, and what the minimum acceptable offer will be. By moving these decisions from the heat of the moment to a premeditated contract, the specialist removes the opportunity for the house to be used as a bargaining chip in the courtroom. The American real estate market is also heavily influenced by the concept of the marital home as a sanctuary for children. This is where cultural norms and legal reality often clash. In many U.S. jurisdictions, judges are hesitant to force the sale of a home during the school year if children are involved. A specialized agent must be a master of timing. They look at the 2026 academic calendar and coordinate the listing to hit the market at the precise moment that aligns with the court's preference for stability, while maximizing the seasonal buyer demand in May and June. If an agent misses this window, the house might sit until autumn, leading to price cuts and a weakened negotiating position. Case studies from the 2024 and 2025 markets show that divorce-related listings that missed the spring window sold for an average of 5% less than their market peers. On a $750,000 home, that is a $37,500 loss. Furthermore, we must discuss the specific data regarding the mortgage assumption trap. In 2026, many American homeowners are still clinging to the historically low mortgage rates they secured years prior. During a divorce, one spouse often wants to keep that 3% interest rate while removing the other spouse from the deed. The problem is that most American mortgages are not assumable. A generalist agent might tell a client, "Just have your ex-spouse sign a quitclaim deed." This is dangerous advice. While a quitclaim deed removes the person from the title, it does not remove them from the debt. The departing spouse remains 100% liable for the mortgage payments in the eyes of the bank. If the remaining spouse loses their job or misses a payment, the departing spouse's credit score is decimated. A divorce real estate specialist works in tandem with specialized lenders to investigate if an assumption is possible, or if a new financing structure, such as a specialized refinance, is the only way to protect both parties' credit profiles. This leads us to the concept of the court-appointed listing. In high-conflict cases, a judge may lose patience with the parties and appoint a specific agent to handle the sale. In this scenario, the agent is not working for the husband or the wife. They are an arm of the court. They report directly to the judge or a court-appointed receiver. This is a high-pressure role that requires meticulous record-keeping. Every phone call, every showing feedback, and every offer must be logged and potentially presented as evidence. This is where the American cultural norm of litigation meets the practical reality of the housing market. The agent must remain completely immune to the emotional manipulation that often occurs. They cannot take sides. If they do, they risk being disqualified by the court, which sends the entire sale process back to square one, costing the family thousands more in legal delays. We also see a rising trend in 2026 regarding the impact of short-term rental income on divorce valuations. Many American couples have turned portions of their homes or secondary properties into income-generating assets. When a divorce occurs, how do you value a property that is both a residence and a business? A standard agent will look at comparable sales of nearby homes. A divorce specialist will look at the capitalization rate of the income stream and how that income affects the alimony and child support calculations. They understand that the sale of the real estate is inextricably linked to the broader financial settlement. As we examine the technicalities of the U.S. market, we must also look at the role of the home inspection. In a normal sale, the inspection is a hurdle to be cleared. In a divorce sale, it is often used as a tool for sabotage. If one spouse does not want to move, they might intentionally point out every minor flaw to the inspector or refuse to make mandatory repairs required by the buyer's lender. The specialist agent anticipates this. They often recommend a pre-listing inspection conducted by a neutral party, with the report provided to both attorneys. This creates a baseline of truth that neither spouse can easily dispute in court later. But what happens when the house finally sells and the check is on the table? In the U.S., the distribution of those funds is not always as simple as a 50-50 split at the closing table. There are liens, back taxes, and potential legal fees that must be settled first. The complexity of the closing statement in a divorce sale is a masterclass in American accounting. This brings us to a critical junction in our deep dive. While we have covered the legal and logistical hurdles, we have not yet touched on the most dangerous element of any divorce sale: the quiet, invisible influence of the mortgage industry and the specific tax traps that the IRS has laid for the unwary. If you think the struggle is just about finding a buyer, you are only seeing half the picture. The real danger often begins after the contract is signed, when the tax man and the bank step into the room to claim their share of your vanishing equity. In the next part, we will expose the specific IRS codes that can cost you $250,000 in exemptions if you time your sale incorrectly, and the mortgage secrets that banks don't want divorcing couples to know. The intersection of tax law and marital dissolution is one of the most treacherous landscapes in the American financial system. Most homeowners are familiar with the basic concept of the primary residence exclusion, formerly known under Internal Revenue Code Section 121. In a standard American household, this allows a married couple filing jointly to exclude up to $500,000 of gain from the sale of their home from federal income tax. For a single filer, that amount drops to $250,000. In the context of a 2026 real estate market where property values in states like Arizona, Idaho, and Tennessee have seen exponential growth over the last decade, this tax break is often the only thing standing between a comfortable relocation and a massive tax bill. Imagine a character named Michael. Michael and his spouse bought their Seattle home in 2012 for $400,000. By early 2026, the home is appraised at $1.1 million. That is a $700,000 gain. If they sell while still married and filing jointly, they apply their $500,000 exclusion, leaving only $200,000 subject to capital gains tax. However, if the divorce decree is finalized and Michael's spouse moves out, and Michael later sells the home as a single filer, he only gets a $250,000 exclusion. Suddenly, $450,000 of that gain is taxable. Depending on Michael's income bracket, he could be looking at a federal tax bill exceeding $60,000 to $90,000 just because the timing of the sale did not align with the finalization of the divorce. Historical trends show that thousands of Americans fall into this trap because their real estate agent did not coordinate with their tax professional. A divorce real estate specialist identifies this risk during the first consultation. They look at the holding period and the projected gain to determine if the sale must occur before or after the gavel falls. Step by step, the specialist must also navigate the 2 out of 5 year rule. To qualify for the Section 121 exclusion, you must have owned and lived in the home as your main residence for at least 2 years out of the 5 years leading up to the sale. In a divorce, one spouse often moves out months or even years before the house is sold. If that spouse stays away too long, they might lose their eligibility for the exclusion entirely. However, there is a specific legal provision known as the Section 121d(3)(b) incident to divorce rule. This allows a spouse who has moved out to count the time the other spouse remained in the home as their own use period, provided it is stipulated in a written divorce decree or separation agreement. If your agent doesn't know to ask your attorney for this specific language in your marital settlement agreement, you are essentially leaving a $250,000 tax shield to chance. Beyond the IRS, we must address the gatekeepers of the American debt machine, the mortgage lenders. In 2026, the mortgage market has become increasingly rigid. Many divorcing couples assume that a judge's order is enough to change the terms of a private contract with a bank. It is not. If a judge orders Mark to pay the mortgage, but Mark loses his job and stops paying, the bank will still pursue Sarah if her name is on the original promissory note. This is the phenomenon of the contingent liability. Consider a case study from a recent transition in the Mid-Atlantic region. A spouse was awarded the family home and was ordered by the court to refinance the mortgage into their own name within 6 months. However, because interest rates in 2026 are significantly higher than they were when the couple first bought the home, the spouse could not qualify for the new loan on a single income. They were stuck. The house couldn't be refinanced. The departing spouse couldn't get a new mortgage for a different home because their debt-to-income ratio was too high, and the legal fees began to mount as they headed back to court to litigate the contempt of a court order. A specialized agent prevents this by performing what is called a mortgage scripting analysis before the house is even awarded to a specific party. They work with specialized divorce lending professionals to verify if a spouse is actually mortgage eligible based on their post-divorce income, which often includes alimony or child support that hasn't started yet. In the U.S., most lenders require a 6-month history of receiving alimony or child support before they will count it as qualifying income for a new mortgage. This creates a massive gap in the American relocation cycle. If a spouse needs to buy a new home immediately after the divorce to maintain the children's school district, they may find themselves technically homeless despite having a high net worth on paper. The specialist agent knows how to structure the sale of the marital home to include a rent-back agreement or a delayed closing that aligns with these banking requirements. They understand that the real estate transaction is the tail of the dog, and the mortgage guidelines are the dog. We also have to look at the 2026 trend of the creative buyout. Because of high interest rates, fewer people want to sell and move. Instead, we are seeing a rise in equity buyouts funded by secondary assets. But here is the catch. How do you value the equity? In a standard sale, the market determines the value. In a buyout, a single appraiser often determines it. Historical trends in divorce litigation show that appraisals can vary by as much as 10 to 15%, depending on who hired the appraiser. A divorce real estate specialist acts as a neutral third party to vet appraisers and ensure the valuation is not just a number, but a defensible data point that will hold up under cross-examination. They look at hyperlocal data, such as recent neighborhood sales that may not be in the public record yet, to ensure Michael isn't paying $50,000 too much to buy out his spouse, or that Sarah isn't leaving $50,000 on the table. Another layer of this masterclass involves the deferred sale, often called a Duke of Manchester order in some jurisdictions or a Mesher order in others. This is where the house is not sold immediately, but the sale is postponed until a specific event occurs, like the youngest child graduating high school. While this sounds like a compassionate solution, it is a logistical nightmare in the American tax and insurance system. Who pays for the new roof 3 years from now? Who gets the mortgage interest deduction on their 1040 tax form? If one spouse remarries and moves into the house, does the other spouse still have to pay for the homeowner's insurance? A specialized agent drafts a property maintenance agreement that answers these questions before they become crises. They ensure that the future sale price is protected by mandatory maintenance schedules, preventing the house from falling into disrepair and losing value while the parties wait for the children to age out. As we peel back these layers, it becomes clear that the American divorce real estate process is less about selling a building and more about navigating a complex web of federal law, banking regulations, and state-specific civil codes. But there is an even darker side to this process that most people never see coming. It involves the way property titles are held and a specific type of lien that can quietly attach itself to your home without you ever signing a single document. It is a legal ghost that can haunt a sale and prevent a closing at the very last minute, even if both spouses are in full agreement. In the next part, we will dive into the world of title clouds, judgments, and the devastating impact of the lease pendens, a legal notice that can effectively freeze your property in time and destroy your ability to negotiate. If you think your title is clear just because you have been paying your mortgage, you might be in for a shocking awakening. To understand why your title might not be as clean as you think, we have to look at the unique way American property law intersects with civil litigation. In the United States, a house is not just a bundle of wood and concrete. It is a public ledger of your financial and legal history. The moment a divorce petition is filed in 2026, a metaphorical fence begins to rise around the property. One of the most powerful and misunderstood tools in this process is the lease pendens. Translated from Latin, it means suit pending. This is a formal notice filed in the public land records indicating that the title to a specific property is subject to a legal dispute. Imagine a character named Jennifer. Jennifer and her husband are in the middle of a high-conflict split in a fast-moving market like Denver, Colorado. Jennifer wants to sell the house because she can no longer afford the property taxes and maintenance on her own. Her husband, however, is refusing to cooperate, hoping to exhaust Jennifer's legal budget, so she will drop her claim to his retirement accounts. To protect her interest in the home's equity, Jennifer's attorney files a lease pendens. For the rest of the world, this is a giant red flag. If a prospective buyer's title company sees a lease pendens, they will generally refuse to issue a title insurance policy. Without title insurance, no institutional lender in the U.S. will provide a mortgage. Jennifer's house is now effectively frozen. Even if a buyer offers $50,000 over the asking price in cash, that buyer takes on the risk of the court eventually awarding the house to the husband. A specialized divorce real estate agent knows that a lease pendens is a double-edged sword. While it protects equity from being drained, it can also kill a sale in a softening market. The specialist works with the attorneys to negotiate a conditional release of the lease pendens, ensuring that the property can be sold to a third party, while the proceeds are safely held in an attorney's escrow account. Historical trends show that title issues are the #1 cause of closing delays in matrimonial sales. Beyond the lease pendens, there is the issue of judgment liens. In the U.S., if one spouse has a significant amount of credit card debt, medical bills, or a failed business venture, a creditor may have sued them and won a judgment. In many states, that judgment automatically attaches to any real estate owned by the debtor. Imagine Jennifer discovers at the closing table that her husband's secret $40,000 gambling debt has become a lien against their primary residence. Under American community property laws or even in equitable distribution states, that debt might have to be paid out of the house proceeds before Jennifer gets a single dime. A standard agent usually waits for the title report to arrive a week before closing to find these surprises. A divorce specialist performs a preliminary title search the day the listing agreement is signed. This allows the legal teams months to argue over whether that debt is a marital liability or a separate one, potentially saving the innocent spouse from paying for their partner's financial mistakes. Now, let us look at the 2026 reality of the homestead exemption. Most Americans believe the homestead exemption is just a way to save a few $100s on property taxes. While that is true in a general sense, in the context of a divorce, it is a complex legal shield. In states like Florida or Texas, the homestead protection is incredibly robust, often protecting the home from being seized by most creditors. However, when you sell that home during a divorce, you are converting a protected asset into unprotected cash. If that cash sits in a standard checking account for even one day, a creditor with a judgment could potentially freeze the account and seize the funds. A divorce real estate specialist coordinates with financial advisors to ensure that the timing of the sale and the movement of the funds are handled with surgical precision. They may use specialized accounts or immediate reinvestment strategies to preserve the protected status of that wealth. We also need to discuss the role of the quitclaim deed versus the warranty deed. This is the area where many American homeowners make a catastrophic error. In a divorce settlement, a lawyer might tell a husband to quitclaim his interest to the wife. A quitclaim deed says, "I am giving you whatever interest I might have in this property, but I am not making any promises that the title is actually good." If the wife later tries to sell the house and the title company finds an old, unresolved lien from the husband's past, the husband is no longer responsible for fixing it. The wife is stuck with a tainted title. A specialized agent advocates for the use of a special warranty deed or specific language in the settlement that requires the departing spouse to provide a clear title. Case studies indicate that roughly 15% of self-represented or poorly advised divorcing couples in the U.S. run into title defects years after their divorce is finalized because they used the wrong deed structure. Furthermore, we must address the 2026 trend of electronic notarization and fraud in divorce real estate. As the U.S. moves further into digital transactions, the risk of one spouse forging a signature on a deed or a mortgage modification has increased. A specialized agent is trained to verify the identity and the intent of both parties separately. This is why a specialist will never take a signed document from one spouse and assume it is valid without speaking to the other. They understand that in high-stakes divorces, the pressure can lead individuals to make desperate, illegal choices. By maintaining a strict protocol of dual verification, the agent protects the integrity of the sale and the legal standing of both parties. Step by step, the process of clearing a title for a divorce sale involves several layers of verification. First, the agent must identify every person or entity with a recorded interest. This includes not just the spouses, but also the IRS if there are back taxes, the state if there are child support arrears, and even contractors who may have filed a mechanic's lien for unpaid work. In the U.S., child support arrears often act as a super priority lien. If a spouse owes $20,000 in back child support, the state can often collect that directly from the home sale proceeds regardless of what the divorce decree says about the split. The specialist agent knows how to read these reports and bring them to the attention of the attorneys early, so there are no $20,000 surprises on the day of moving. What about the physical state of the property during these legal battles? In 2026, we are seeing more cases of what we call waste. Waste is a legal term for when a person in possession of a property intentionally, or through gross negligence, allows its value to decrease. In a divorce, if the spouse living in the house stops watering the lawn, lets the pool turn black, or ignores a roof leak, they are committing waste. A divorce real estate specialist often acts as a neutral property manager. They perform weekly walkthroughs and provide dated, photo-documented reports to both attorneys. This prevents one spouse from devaluing the asset to spite the other, or to lower the buyout price. The complexity of these title and physical asset issues leads us to a fundamental truth about the American market. The house is never just a house. It is the physical manifestation of a legal contract. If you fail to respect the legal side, the physical sale will inevitably fail. But even with a clear title and a well-maintained home, there is one more predator waiting in the tall grass of the American real estate market. It is a phenomenon that occurs when the emotions of the split meet the cold, hard logic of the appraisal industry. You might think your home is worth $1 million, and your spouse might think it is worth $800,000, but in 2026, there is a third party whose opinion is the only one that actually matters for the bank. In the next part, we will explore the appraisal war, the specific ways American appraisers are being pressured in divorce cases, and the secret data points that can swing a valuation by 6 figures based on a single paragraph in a report. If you think an appraisal is an objective science, you are about to see how much of it is actually a high-stakes negotiation. In the American real estate industry of 2026, the appraisal is often treated as the final word, a mathematical certainty etched in stone. However, when you introduce the volatile variables of a divorce, the appraisal transforms from a routine bank requirement into a strategic instrument of war. To understand how a single report can swing a valuation by $100,000 or more, we must first dismantle the myth of appraisal objectivity. An appraisal is an opinion of value supported by data, but in a divorce, the data chosen and the narrative constructed around that data are subject to intense professional scrutiny. Imagine a character named David. David is going through a mediated divorce in a high-density market like Northern Virginia or the suburbs of Chicago. David wants to keep the house, which means he needs the appraisal to be as low as possible to reduce the amount of cash he has to pay his spouse to buy out her interest. His spouse, conversely, wants the appraisal to hit the ceiling to maximize her exit capital. In a standard sale, the appraiser is looking for the most likely price the home would fetch on the open market. In a divorce buyout, David might point out every cracked tile, the aging HVAC system from 2010, and the fact that a house 3 streets over sold for much less due to foundation issues. A divorce real estate specialist knows that David is attempting to influence the appraiser's perception of the home's condition. The specialized agent's role in this scenario is to ensure the integrity of the valuation process. Historical trends in 2025 and 2026 show a rise in the use of dual appraisals, where each party hires their own professional. When those two numbers come back with a 15% discrepancy, the court often orders a third tiebreaker appraisal. This is a massive drain on the marital estate. Step by step, the specialist prevents this by advocating for a single joint instruction appraisal. This involves both attorneys and both spouses agreeing on one appraiser, who is specifically trained in forensic valuation. This appraiser does not just look at comparable sales. They look at the intended use of the report, which is for a judicial or quasi-judicial settlement. A critical data point that often swings these valuations is the adjustment grid. In the United States, appraisers use a standard form where they compare the subject property to 3 or 4 recently sold homes. They make adjustments for differences in square footage, lot size, and amenities. In a divorce case, the specific comps chosen can change everything. If an appraiser chooses a comp that was a distressed sale or a quick relocation, it drags the value down. If they choose a comp that was meticulously staged and sold during a bidding war, it pushes the value up. The divorce real estate specialist provides the appraiser with a comprehensive property disclosure packet that includes a detailed history of the home's maintenance, a list of all non-permitted work, and a summary of neighborhood trends that might not be visible in a simple data pull. This ensures the appraiser is working with a complete set of facts, rather than a curated version provided by one disgruntled spouse. Let us look at a case study involving a property in Scottsdale, Arizona, in early 2026. The husband claimed the home was worth $1.2 million based on a popular online valuation tool. The wife, who had been managing the household, knew the roof was nearing the end of its life and the pool equipment was failing, estimating the value at $1.05 million. A standard appraisal came in at $1.15 million. However, the divorce real estate specialist noticed that the appraiser had failed to account for a new zoning change in the adjacent lot that would soon see a multi-story commercial building block the home's mountain views. By bringing this specific, forward-looking data to the appraiser's attention, the valuation was adjusted to $1.08 million. This $70,000 difference changed the entire math of the settlement, allowing the wife to afford the buyout that previously seemed impossible. Another layer of the appraisal war is the concept of stigma. In the U.S. cultural context, a house that has been the site of a high-conflict divorce or a long-term vacancy during litigation can develop a market stigma. Buyers and their agents often sniff out a divorce sale, assuming the sellers are desperate or that the house has been neglected. They may submit lowball offers, which then become the new comps for the neighborhood. A specialized agent manages the narrative. They ensure the home is presented as a high-quality asset rather than a casualty of a broken marriage. They might suggest a specific level of cosmetic refreshing that yields the highest return on investment, but they do so by coordinating the costs through a court-approved vendor list so neither spouse feels cheated by the expense. In 2026, we are also seeing the impact of the automated valuation model, or AVM. These are the algorithms used by major real estate websites. In a divorce, these numbers are frequently used as weapons. One spouse will print out a high AVM and demand that as the price. A divorce real estate specialist must educate both parties and their legal counsel on why AVMs are often inaccurate in a divorce context. These algorithms cannot see the interior of the home. They don't know if the basement has a mold issue or if the kitchen was updated in 2024. Relying on an algorithm instead of a professional forensic appraisal is a leading cause of mediation failure in the U.S. housing market today. Furthermore, we must address the 2026 trend of the retrospective appraisal. Sometimes a divorce takes years to finalize. If the couple separated in 2024 but the trial isn't until 2026, the court may need to know what the house was worth on the date of separation versus the date of the trial. This is because any increase in value during those 2 years might be considered the separate property of the spouse who stayed in the home and paid the mortgage. A specialized agent works with appraisers who have the data sets to look back in time. They reconstruct the market conditions of 2 years prior, accounting for interest rate shifts and inventory levels that existed then. This is highly technical work that a standard neighborhood agent simply cannot perform. The stakes of the appraisal are even higher when we consider the impact of negative equity. While many parts of the U.S. have seen growth, some specific submarkets in 2026 are experiencing corrections. If a couple owes $500,000 on a home that is now only worth $480,000, the appraisal becomes a document that dictates how much debt each person must take on. In this scenario, the divorce real estate agent transitions into a short sale specialist or a debt negotiation consultant, working with the bank to see if a deed in lieu of foreclosure is a viable option to protect the client's future credit. As we conclude this exploration of the appraisal war, it is clear that the value of an American home is not a fixed point, but a range that is influenced by data, narrative, and timing. If you enter a divorce thinking the appraisal is just a hoop to jump through, you are leaving your financial future to the whim of a stranger with a clipboard. But the appraisal is only the beginning of the end. Once the value is set, the real drama begins, the physical exit. The way you move out of a marital home in the U.S. is governed by a set of unwritten rules and high-stakes legal consequences. In the next part, we will discuss the 72-hour evacuation, the legal definition of personal property versus fixtures, and the shocking reason why taking the dining room chandelier could land you in front of a judge for contempt of court. If you think your furniture is yours to take, you need to hear what happens when the moving truck arrives. The physical exit from a marital home is often where the abstract legal theories of a divorce case collide with the messy, emotional reality of American domestic life. In the United States, property is divided into two distinct categories: real property and personal property. Real property is the land and anything permanently attached to it, while personal property refers to the movable items inside. However, the line between the two is frequently blurred by what we call fixtures. A fixture is an item that was once personal property, but has been attached to the real estate in such a way that it is now legally considered part of the house. In a high-conflict divorce in 2026, the definition of a fixture can become a $1,000 legal argument that halts a multi-million-dollar real estate closing. Imagine a character named Robert. Robert is moving out of a high-end craftsman home in Portland, Oregon. He spent $5,000 on a smart home security system and another $3,000 on a custom-built wine rack that is bolted into the basement wall. As the moving truck arrives, Robert begins unscrewing the wine rack and removing the smart doorbells and interior cameras. In his mind, he paid for them, so they belong to him. However, under standard U.S. residential sales contracts, anything attached by nails, screws, or glue is generally considered a fixture that must stay with the home, unless specifically excluded in the listing agreement. When the buyer does their final walkthrough and sees holes in the drywall where the wine rack used to be and wires dangling from the doorbell mount, they refuse to sign the closing papers. Now, the divorce real estate agent has a crisis. Robert's spouse is furious because the delay is costing her $200 a day in interest, and the buyer is threatening to walk away with their earnest money. Historical trends in American divorce litigation show that the most common items involved in fixture disputes are chandeliers, wall-mounted televisions, custom window treatments, and high-end appliances. A specialized divorce real estate agent prevents this by conducting a room-by-room inventory long before the first showing. Step by step, the agent walks through the home with both spouses and an inventory sheet. They identify every item that could be considered a fixture and ask for a written agreement on whether it stays or goes. If Robert wants that chandelier because it was a gift from his mother, the agent ensures that it is replaced with a standard light fixture before the house is even photographed for the listing. This removes the emotional trigger for the buyer and the legal leverage for the spouse. Beyond the fixtures, we must address the 72-hour evacuation protocol. In many U.S. jurisdictions, once a house is sold, the court or the contract dictates a very specific timeline for when the departing spouse must vacate. In 2026, we are seeing an increase in possession escrow agreements. This is where a portion of the seller's proceeds, often between $5,000 and $20,000, is held by the title company until the house is delivered in broom-clean condition. If Robert leaves a pile of trash in the garage or scratches the hardwood floors while moving his couch, the buyer can claim those funds to cover the cleaning and repair costs. A divorce real estate specialist acts as a neutral inspector during this transition. They perform a final exit walkthrough, documenting the condition with video evidence to protect both spouses from frivolous claims by the buyer or retaliatory claims from each other. The American cultural norm of the clean break often ignores the logistical nightmare of the split shipment move. Imagine Robert and his spouse have agreed to divide their furniture 50-50. In a standard move, you pack one truck and go to one destination. In a divorce move, you have two sets of movers, two destinations, and one very stressed-out real estate agent trying to ensure the house isn't damaged in the crossfire. We have seen case studies where spouses have called the police on each other during moving day, claiming the other is stealing property that wasn't agreed upon. To mitigate this, specialized agents often recommend a professional organizer or a third-party move manager. This person acts as a referee, ensuring that only the items listed in the marital settlement agreement are loaded onto each truck. By removing the spouses from the physical act of moving, the risk of a domestic disturbance that could jeopardize the real estate sale is significantly reduced. We must also discuss the concept of broom clean versus pristine. In the U.S., most real estate contracts require the home to be delivered in broom-clean condition, which simply means swept and free of debris. However, in a divorce, the spouse who is not living in the home often expects the house to be professionally deep cleaned, while the spouse who is moving out often does the bare minimum out of spite or exhaustion. This discrepancy is a frequent cause of last-minute credits at the closing table. A specialized agent manages these expectations by building a professional cleaning fee directly into the closing costs, paid for by the marital estate. This ensures the buyer is happy, the house is protected, and neither spouse has to spend their final hours in the home scrubbing floors for the benefit of their ex-partner's equity. In 2026, a new challenge has emerged: the digital handover. Modern American homes are filled with smart thermostats, Wi-Fi-enabled refrigerators, and connected garage door openers. In a divorce, the spouse who leaves the home often retains digital access to these devices through their smartphone. We have seen historical cases where a departing spouse has used a smart thermostat to turn the heat up to 90 degrees, or blast the air conditioning as a form of digital harassment. A divorce real estate specialist ensures that a full factory reset is performed on all smart devices. They document the transfer of digital master keys to the new owner or the remaining spouse, ensuring that the home is not just physically secure, but digitally severed from the previous relationship. Another layer of the physical exit is the abandoned property trap. In some states, if a spouse leaves items behind after the move-out date, those items are considered abandoned after a certain period. However, if the real estate agent allows the house to be sold with those items inside, the buyer might become responsible for them. This can lead to a legal nightmare where a buyer is sued by an ex-husband for throwing away his old golf clubs. The specialist agent utilizes a specific personal property release form, which both spouses sign, stating that anything left in the home after 5 p.m. on the closing date is officially abandoned and can be disposed of by the new owner. The complexity of the physical exit highlights a broader truth about the American divorce real estate agent. They are the guardians of the transition. They understand that a house is not truly sold until the keys are handed over and the legal liability is extinguished. But even after the move is finished and the house is empty, there is a final, invisible hurdle that can reach back and pull both parties into a financial quagmire months or even years later. It involves the way the IRS views the final distribution and the hidden liability of the capital gains trap that we only scratched the surface of earlier. In the next part, we are going to dive deep into the post-closing audit, the danger of the joint and several liability on the final tax return, and the specific ways a 2026 real estate sale can trigger an IRS audit that neither spouse saw coming. If you think the closing table is the finish line, you are missing the most dangerous part of the race. The misconception that the signing of a closing statement marks the end of financial liability is one of the most pervasive myths in the American real estate landscape. In reality, the year 2026 has introduced a heightened level of scrutiny from the Internal Revenue Service regarding large asset liquidations during matrimonial splits. When a primary residence is sold, the title company issues a Form 1099-S to the sellers, reporting the gross proceeds to the IRS. For a divorcing couple, the way this form is filled out can dictate their tax liability for years to come. If the form lists both Social Security numbers, but the divorce decree specifies an unequal split of the proceeds, the IRS computer systems may flag the discrepancy, leading to a correspondence audit. Imagine a character named Sarah. Sarah and her ex-husband sold their Silicon Valley home in early 2026 for $2.8 million. Because they lived there for over a decade, they had significant capital gains. Their divorce settlement stated that Sarah would receive 70% of the proceeds to compensate for her waiving her rights to her husband's pension. However, at the closing table, the standard title officer issued a 1099-S splitting the proceeds 50-50. When Sarah filed her taxes as a head of household later that year, she reported her 70% share, while her ex-husband only reported 30%. To the IRS, this looked like 40% of the sale price had vanished into thin air. Without the intervention of a divorce real estate specialist who understands tax reporting protocols, Sarah could face months of frozen refunds and expensive accounting fees to prove the validity of the split. Historical trends show that the concept of joint and several liability is the primary trap for American divorcees. Even if a divorce decree says that one spouse is responsible for the taxes on a home sale, the IRS is not a party to that contract. If you filed a joint return in the year of the sale, the government can pursue either spouse for the full amount of any unpaid tax, interest, or penalties. This is why a specialist agent emphasizes the importance of the indemnification clause in the real estate section of the marital settlement agreement. This clause ensures that if the IRS comes knocking for the other spouse's share of the capital gains tax, the innocent spouse has a legal path to recover those costs in civil court. Step by step, the post-closing audit process often begins with a review of the cost basis. In the US, your profit is not the sale price. It is the sale price minus the cost basis. The basis includes the original purchase price plus the cost of capital improvements. During a divorce, the documentation for that 2018 kitchen remodel or the 2022 roof replacement often goes missing or is intentionally withheld by one party. A specialized agent maintains a digital vault of these receipts from the moment the listing begins. By the time the house is sold in 2026, they provide both parties with a completed basis reconstruction report. This report is a shield against an audit, ensuring that the taxable gain is as low as legally possible by documenting every single dollar spent on improving the property over the years. We must also examine the 2026 implications of the mortgage interest deduction. For many American homeowners, this is their largest annual tax break. In the year of a divorce and a home sale, who gets to claim the interest paid up to the date of the sale? If one spouse moved out in March but the house sold in October, and both spouses contributed to the mortgage payments from different accounts, the math becomes a nightmare. Case studies from the Mid-Atlantic region suggest that without a clear, written agreement on the allocation of the mortgage interest deduction, couples often end up in post-divorce litigation that costs more than the tax break itself is worth. A divorce real estate specialist coordinates with the couple's CPAs to ensure the closing disclosure clearly breaks down the prorated interest, allowing for a clean filing. Now, let us look at the high-stakes world of the 1031 exchange in the context of a divorce. While typically used for investment properties, many American couples own mixed-use properties, such as a home with an ADU or a farm with a primary residence. If a couple decides to sell such a property in 2026, they may want to roll their portion of the investment equity into a new property to defer taxes. However, the IRS rules for 1031 exchanges are incredibly strict regarding the same taxpayer requirement. If the property was owned as a married couple, but the exchange is performed as two single individuals, the entire deferral could be disqualified. A specialized agent understands the drop and swap technique, where the property title is changed from joint ownership to tenants in common shortly before the sale, allowing each spouse to go their separate way into new investments without a massive tax hit. Furthermore, we must discuss the 2026 trend of the stepped-up basis. In the event of a spouse's death during a divorce. It is a grim reality, but in the US, if a spouse dies before the divorce is finalized and the house is sold, the surviving spouse may receive a stepped-up basis to the fair market value at the date of death. This can eliminate hundreds of thousands of dollars in capital gains tax. However, if the house was already under contract or if a quitclaim deed had already been recorded, that tax advantage might be lost. A divorce real estate specialist works with estate attorneys to ensure that the timing of the real estate transaction does not accidentally strip the family of these critical protections. The American cultural norm of moving on often leads to a rush to close accounts. But in a divorce sale, the trailing liability can last for years. This includes things like utility true-ups, property tax reassessments that occur months after the sale, and even homeowner association (HOA) fines that were discovered during a post-sale audit. In 2026, we are seeing specialized agents utilize a post-closing escrow holdback for more than just physical repairs. They may suggest holding back funds to cover a projected tax reassessment, ensuring that the ex-spouses don't have to contact each other a year later to settle a $2,000 bill from the county. The complexity of these tax and liability issues highlights the necessity of the professional divorce team. In the US, the real estate agent is the hub of a wheel that includes the attorney, the CPA, and the mortgage professional. If the agent is a generalist who doesn't understand how their actions at the closing table ripple through a tax return, the clients are the ones who pay the price. We have seen historical cases where a simple $500 error on a closing statement triggered a multi-year IRS investigation into a taxpayer's entire financial history. As we move toward the conclusion of this masterclass, we have covered the legal freezes, the appraisal wars, the physical exits, and the tax traps. But there is one final overarching cultural norm in the United States that can undermine everything we have discussed. It is the role of the shadow influencers. These are the well-meaning friends, family members, and new romantic partners who whisper advice into the ears of the divorcing parties, often contradicting the professional strategy and leading to total systemic collapse. In the next part, we will explore the psychology of the third party, how to identify when a sale is being sabotaged from the outside, and the specific communication firewalls that a top-tier specialist uses to keep the transaction on track when everyone else is trying to derail it. If you think your ex-spouse is your only obstacle, you haven't met their new partner or their mother-in-law. The shadow influencer is a phenomenon deeply embedded in the American social fabric, particularly in the high-stakes world of residential real estate. In the United States, selling a home is often viewed as a communal event. Friends, parents, and siblings offer unsolicited advice based on their own experiences from a decade ago, or worse, based on something they saw on a 10-minute reality television clip. In a divorce scenario, these external voices become magnified. They are not just offering real estate advice. They are offering emotional validation. This creates a dangerous feedback loop where a spouse may reject a perfectly valid, fair market offer simply because their brother-in-law in a different state insists the market is about to skyrocket. Imagine a character named Thomas. Thomas is selling his marital home in a competitive market like Phoenix, Arizona, in 2026. The house is listed at $850,000. A clean cash offer comes in at $840,000 with a quick 15-day close. Thomas is inclined to take it because it allows him to pay off the marital debts and move into his new apartment before his new job starts. However, Thomas's father, who hasn't sold a house since 1998, tells him that he is being taken advantage of and that he should hold out for a bidding war. Simultaneously, Thomas's new girlfriend is whispering that the house is worth at least $900,000 because she likes the kitchen cabinets. Thomas, seeking to prove his strength or financial savvy to these influencers, rejects the $840,000 offer. 3 weeks later, the market shifts slightly, interest rates tick up, and the best offer he can get is $810,000. Historical trends in the 2020s show that shadow influencers are responsible for a significant percentage of failed real estate mediations because they provide an echo chamber for unrealistic expectations. A divorce real estate specialist identifies these shadow influencers early in the process. Step by step, the agent implements a communication firewall. This is a professional boundary designed to filter out the noise. The specialist establishes a rule. They will only communicate with the parties named on the title and their legal counsel. If Thomas says, "My dad thinks we should wait," the specialist doesn't argue with the dad. Instead, they provide Thomas with a market absorption report, a data-heavy document showing exactly how many homes in his specific zip code sold for cash versus financing in the last 30 days, and the average percentage of list price achieved. By fighting anecdote with data, the specialist empowers Thomas to make an objective decision based on 2026 reality, rather than 1998 nostalgia. We must also look at the case study of the new partner. In many American divorces, one or both parties may have already moved on to a new relationship by the time the house hits the market. This new partner often views the marital home as a symbol of the past that must be purged, or conversely, as a source of capital for their new life together. This creates an invisible pressure on the real estate transaction. For instance, if the new partner is an amateur interior designer, they may insist on expensive staging or renovations that the marital estate cannot afford, or that won't provide a return on investment. The specialist agent handles this by utilizing a neutral third-party vendor system. They use data to show that in 2026, homes with neutral professional staging sell faster than those with personalized or overly trendy updates. They protect the equity by refusing to let the transaction become a project for a third party's creative ambitions. Another cultural norm in the US is the over-reliance on the Zestimate or other online valuation tools by family members. A common scenario involves a mother-in-law sending screenshots of high online estimates to her daughter, convincing her that the real estate agent is working with the ex-husband to undersell the house. This breeds distrust and can lead to a spouse refusing to sign the listing agreement. To combat this, the divorce real estate specialist conducts a collaborative market analysis. They invite both spouses to a digital meeting where they look at the same comps or comparable sales that an appraiser would use. They explain the adjustments for things like busy streets, proximity to power lines, or deferred maintenance. When the spouses see the logic behind the numbers, the influence of the Zestimate sharing relative begins to fade. The role of the attorney as influencer is another layer we must peel back. While attorneys are essential, they are trained for advocacy, not for real estate marketing. Sometimes, a well-meaning attorney might advise their client to reject a sale as a tactical move in the broader divorce litigation. They might want to use the house as leverage for a better deal on alimony. However, the real estate market does not wait for legal tactics. A specialized agent maintains a professional peer relationship with the attorneys. They provide the legal teams with a cost of carry analysis. This document breaks down exactly how much it costs the couple in mortgage, taxes, insurance, and utilities every day the house sits vacant on the market. When an attorney sees that their client is losing $150 a day just to maintain a tactical position, they are much more likely to advise their client to sign the contract. In 2026, we are also seeing the rise of the social media influencer effect on divorce real estate. Clients often follow real estate gurus who give advice about never taking the first offer or always demanding a leaseback. In a divorce, these generic strategies can be disastrous. A leaseback, where the seller stays in the home after closing, is incredibly risky in a divorce because it keeps the ex-spouses tethered to the property and each other. If the staying spouse refuses to leave at the end of the lease, both ex-spouses could be sued by the new buyer. The specialist agent explains the unique liability risks of these viral strategies, ensuring the clients prioritize a clean break over a trendy tactic. The communication firewall also extends to the buyer's side. In a standard U.S. sale, the buyer's agent might try to glean information about the seller's motivation. If they hear it's a divorce, they smell blood in the water and submit a lowball offer. A divorce real estate specialist is a master of strategic silence. They never disclose the reason for the sale. If asked why the owners are moving, they use neutral phrases like "the seller's goals have changed," or "they are looking for a different lifestyle." By keeping the divorce out of the marketing, they protect the seller's negotiating power from being eroded by the cultural stigma of a desperate sale. This brings us to a critical junction. We have managed the legalities, the taxes, the move-out, and the external influencers. But what happens when the money actually hits the escrow account? In the United States, the final distribution of funds is where the last, and often most explosive, battles are fought. It isn't just about who gets what percentage. It is about the offsets for things that happened years ago. In the next part, we will dive into the world of credits and offsets, the Watts credits and Epstein credits, and how a $5,000 repair bill from 3 years ago can suddenly reappear to derail a six-figure payout. If you think the math is simple, you are about to see how the American legal system turns a closing statement into a history book of your marriage. The American legal system possesses a long memory, especially when it comes to the financial contributions made toward the marital home. In the high-stakes environment of 2026, the final distribution of home sale proceeds is rarely a simple division of the check. Instead, it is an accounting of every dollar spent or saved since the date of separation, and sometimes even since the date of the wedding. To understand how your payout can be decimated or doubled at the 11th hour, we must examine the specific mechanisms of credits and offsets, most notably what are historically referred in many jurisdictions as Watson-Epstein credits. Imagine a character named Christopher. Christopher and his spouse separated in January 2025, but the house did not sell until May 2026. For those 16 months, Christopher lived in the house alone while his spouse moved into a rental. Christopher paid the full mortgage, the property taxes, and the insurance. On the day of the closing, Christopher expects to be reimbursed for every penny he spent to keep the house from going into foreclosure. However, he is met with a shocking legal reality: the concept of fair rental value offset. Because Christopher had the exclusive use of the community asset, the court may determine that he owes the marital estate the fair market rental value of the home for those 16 months. If the mortgage was $3,000 but the house could have rented for $4,500, Christopher might actually owe his spouse money for the privilege of living in their joint property, even though he was the one paying the bills. This is where the expertise of a divorce real estate specialist becomes a financial lifeline. A standard agent sees a closing statement as a final tally. A specialist sees it as a negotiation document. Step by step, the specialist works with the legal teams to perform a comprehensive expense and income audit. They track every Epstein credit, which refers to the right of a spouse to be reimbursed for separate property funds used to pay community debts after the date of separation. If Christopher used his post-separation salary to fix a burst pipe in December 2025, that is a reimbursable expense. But without a receipt and a clear link to the necessity of the repair to maintain the home's value, that credit may be disallowed by the court. Historical trends show that the most contentious battles occur over the $2,640 reimbursement. Under California law and similar statutes across the U.S., this refers to the reimbursement for separate property contributions to the acquisition of property. Imagine if Christopher's parents gave him $100,000 for the down payment in 2018. If he cannot prove that money was a gift specifically to him and not to the couple, or if he cannot trace that specific wire transfer through 7 years of commingled bank accounts, he may lose that $100,000 head start. The divorce real estate specialist acts as a forensic coordinator, helping the clients gather the closing disclosures from their original purchase years ago to ensure these separate property claims are protected. Case studies in 2026 suggest that the most overlooked offset is the deferred maintenance penalty. In a standard American sale, if the inspection reveals a bad roof, the sellers just fix it or give a credit. In a divorce, if one spouse was living in the house and failed to report a small leak that turned into a $20,000 mold problem, the other spouse can argue for an offset. They may claim that the living spouse's negligence devalued the asset, and therefore that $20,000 should come exclusively out of the living spouse's share of the proceeds. A specialized agent documents the condition of the home at the date of separation versus the date of listing. By providing a clear timeline of the home's deterioration or maintenance, they prevent one spouse from being unfairly blamed for the natural aging of the property. Furthermore, we must look at the impact of the capital gains tax offset. In many U.S. settlements, one spouse will buy out the other's interest. A common mistake is to value the buyout based on the current market price without accounting for the future tax liability. If Christopher buys out his spouse today based on a $1 million valuation, but he eventually sells the house in 5 years for $1.2 million, he will be responsible for the capital gains tax on the entire growth from their original purchase price. A divorce real estate specialist utilizes a tax-adjusted equity analysis. This calculation subtracts the projected selling costs and capital gains taxes from the current value before the buyout price is determined. This ensures that Christopher isn't buying a liability, while his spouse walks away with clean tax-free cash. The role of the escrow officer in these transactions is also unique. In a standard sale, instructions are straightforward. In a divorce, the escrow officer often receives conflicting instructions from 2 different law firms. The specialist agent manages this by ensuring that a stipulated order for distribution is filed with the title company well before the closing date. This order, signed by a judge or agreed upon in mediation, tells the title company exactly how to cut the checks. Without this, the title company will simply hold the funds in a non-interest-bearing account indefinitely until the spouses agree, which could take months or years while the money loses value to inflation. Another 2026 trend involves the use of the ALTI lien in refinance scenarios. This is a specific type of lien allowed in states like Texas that permits a spouse to tap into the home's equity up to 95% of its value to pay off a departing spouse. In a normal refinance, you are limited to 80%. The specialist agent works with specialized lenders to ensure the ALTI is recorded correctly. If it is not, the IRS might view the payout as a taxable event rather than a non-taxable division of marital property. The difference can be tens of thousands of dollars in unnecessary taxation. As we examine the granularity of these payouts, we also have to account for the professional fee liens. In many high-conflict American divorces, the attorneys or forensic accountants may file a lien against the house to ensure their fees are paid at the time of sale. This is known in some jurisdictions as a FLARPL, or Family Law Attorney Real Property Lien. A specialized agent must account for these liens when calculating the net proceeds. If the agent doesn't realize that both attorneys have $50,000 liens on the property, they might tell the clients they are walking away with $200,000 when they are actually only getting $100,000. Step by step, the path to a successful distribution requires a reconciliation of the preliminary title report, the marital settlement agreement, and the final closing disclosure. It is a three-way match that must be perfect. If there is a $1 discrepancy, the entire closing can be halted. The specialist agent performs a dry run of the closing statement 48 hours in advance, sending it to both legal teams for a final sign-off. This eliminates the closing table ambush, where one party refuses to sign at the last minute because they don't agree with a $50 prorated utility credit. We have now traveled through the entire life cycle of the American divorce real estate transaction, from the initial legal freeze and the psychological warfare of the listing, to the technical traps of the IRS and the forensic math of the final payout. You have seen how the cultural norms of the United States have created a system that is both incredibly efficient and dangerously complex. But there is one final piece to this puzzle. It is the factor that determines whether you emerge from this process as a victim of your circumstances or as the architect of your new life. In the final part of this masterclass, we are going to discuss the post-divorce real estate strategy. We will look at how to rebuild your credit after a split, how to re-enter the 2026 housing market as a single filer, and the specific wealth recovery steps you must take in the first 12 months to ensure your divorce was a pivot point rather than a permanent setback. The house is sold, the check is cashed, but your journey is just beginning. The finalization of a property sale in a divorce context is often met with a sense of relief, but in the American economic landscape of 2026, the period immediately following the closing is where the most critical wealth recovery work begins. For many, the transition from a dual-income household with a shared primary asset to a single filer status is a systemic shock. Historical trends indicate that individuals who fail to implement a strategic housing plan within the first 12 months post-divorce often see a significant erosion of their net worth due to lifestyle creep, inefficient tax planning, and credit mismanagement. The goal now is to transform the liquid capital from your home sale into a foundation for long-term stability. Imagine a character named Marcus. Marcus has just walked away from the closing table in Atlanta, Georgia, with a check for $225,000, representing his half of the equity from the marital home. In the 2026 market, this is a substantial amount of liquidity, but Marcus faces a dilemma. His credit score has dipped by 50 points because of a few late payments on joint accounts during the heat of the litigation. He is currently renting a luxury apartment that consumes 40% of his take-home pay. Marcus is at a crossroads. He can either let that capital sit in a low-interest savings account while he waits for the perfect time to buy, or he can take proactive steps to repair his credit and position himself for a strategic acquisition. Step by step, the first phase of wealth recovery involves the credit restoration protocol. In the United States, your credit score is your most valuable financial passport. A divorce real estate specialist often transitions into a consultant role here, connecting clients with specialized credit advocates. You must begin by auditing your credit report for any zombie debt or joint accounts that were supposed to be closed. Even if a divorce decree says your ex-spouse is responsible for a specific credit card, the creditor can still report late payments against you if your name remains on the account. Marcus must systematically remove his name from all joint liabilities and establish new, independent lines of credit. Historical trends show that by using small, secured credit lines and maintaining a utilization rate below 10%, a post-divorce credit score can see a significant rebound within 6 to 9 months. The second phase is the housing needs assessment. In 2026, the American cultural norm of buying the largest house you can afford is being replaced by a more surgical approach. Marcus needs to decide if his next move should be a primary residence or an investment property that provides cash flow. Many divorcees find themselves overhoused, paying for square footage they no longer need. A specialized agent helps Marcus analyze the cost of carry for a smaller townhome versus a single-family home. Case studies from high-growth markets suggest that divorcees who downsize significantly in the first 2 years, using their equity to eliminate other high-interest debts, reach a point of financial parity with their pre-divorce status much faster than those who try to maintain their previous lifestyle. We must also discuss the 2026 reality of the single-filer tax trap. Now that Marcus is no longer filing jointly, his tax brackets have shifted. The interest he pays on a new mortgage will have a different impact on his bottom line. Furthermore, if he hasn't yet reached the age of 59 and a half, he must be extremely careful about how he uses any funds that might have come from a QDRO, or Qualified Domestic Relations Order, involving retirement accounts linked to the real estate settlement. A divorce real estate specialist works with a tax strategist to ensure that Marcus's next property purchase is timed to maximize his new tax status. For example, purchasing a property with a home office may offer different deductions now that he is the sole head of household. Another critical step in the first 12 months is the insurance and title audit. When Marcus eventually buys his next home, he cannot simply copy-paste his old insurance policy. His liability needs have changed. He no longer has the umbrella of a spouse's coverage. Furthermore, he must decide how to hold title on his new property. In 2026, many single individuals are opting for living trusts to ensure that their real estate assets bypass probate and go directly to their children or chosen heirs. This is a level of estate planning that often gets overlooked in the rush to just find a place to live. Let us look at the concept of the transition property. Sometimes the best move in the first year post-divorce is not to buy a forever home, but to buy a property with high appreciation potential or rental viability. Imagine if Marcus uses a portion of his equity to buy a duplex, living in one side and renting out the other. In the U.S. tax code, this offers a unique combination of primary residence benefits and investment property depreciation. Historical trends in 2025 and 2026 show that this house hacking strategy is becoming a primary way for divorced individuals to rebuild their wealth rapidly. It offsets the loss of the second income and provides a hedge against inflation. The psychological aspect of re-entering the market cannot be ignored. In American culture, the first home purchase after a divorce is often an emotional one. It is a statement of independence. However, an emotional purchase is rarely a sound financial one. A specialized agent acts as a rational anchor, preventing Marcus from overpaying for a revenge house just to show his ex-spouse that he is thriving. Instead, they focus on the data, school district ratings, future infrastructure projects, and neighborhood turnover rates. As we conclude this 10-part deep dive, we have to recognize that the divorce real estate agent in 2026 is more than just a salesperson. They are a navigator through one of life's most complex transitions. We have analyzed the legal freezes, the appraisal battles, the tax implications, and the shadow influencers. We have looked at the forensic accounting of the final payout and the strategic rebuilding of a solo financial life. The American real estate system is a machine of immense power. If you understand its gears, you can use it to propel yourself forward. If you ignore them, you risk being caught in the machinery. The final takeaway for anyone navigating this process in the United States is this: the end of your marriage is the end of a legal contract, but it is not the end of your financial story. By treating the sale of your home as a business transaction and your post-divorce life as a startup, you can preserve the equity you worked years to build. The journey from the marital home to your new front door is paved with data, documentation, and the right professional guidance. This concludes our masterclass on U.S. cultural norms and the divorce real estate agent. While this series has focused on the residential home, there is another massive asset class that often gets caught in the crosshairs of an American divorce, one that carries even more complex tax implications and hidden valuation traps. In our upcoming series, we will be shifting our focus to the world of small business valuation and the matrimonial split, where we will explore how a family-owned company is appraised, divided, and sometimes sold under the pressure of a legal deadline. If you thought the real estate market was complicated, Wait until you see how the American legal system deconstructs a private business.